She walked out of one of the most famous rehab facilities in the world, clean, grateful, and ready to rebuild her life. And the doctor waiting on the other side handed her a prescription that would steal the next 8 years. That woman is Stevie Nicks, the most iconic female voice in rock history, the songwriter behind some of the most played songs ever recorded. And the story of what happened after Betty Ford is the part of her life that almost nobody talks about. By the end of this video, you'll understand why the woman who wrote Landslide, a song about finding the courage to change, spent decades unable to change the one thing she regrets most. She was born Stephanie Lynn Nicks in Phoenix, Arizona, on May 26, 1948. Her father was a senior executive for Greyhound, which meant the family moved constantly. New cities, new schools, new faces, no roots. Music was the only constant. Her grandfather taught her to sing at age 4, duetting with her on country songs before she could read. That habit of turning inward, of finding language in melody instead of conversation, never left her. By the time she was a teenager in California, she was already writing. Not performing yet, just writing. Notebooks full of images and feelings she didn't know what else to do with. She met Lindsey Buckingham at 16, at a house party in Atherton, California. He was playing guitar. She started singing along to California Dreamin'. Something locked into place. For years, they were broke. Not struggling artist broke. Genuinely poor. Stevie worked as a waitress and cleaned houses while Lindsey stayed home and practiced guitar. She later said she was the one keeping them financially alive while he developed the skills that would eventually make them both famous. She never seemed to resent it. She was running towards something, not away from something. In late 1974, drummer Mick Fleetwood heard a track from their self-produced album, Buckingham Nicks, while scouting a recording studio. He wanted Lindsey's guitar playing. He wasn't thinking about Stevie at all. Lindsey made one thing clear: no Stevie, no deal. Fleetwood Mac got them both. And if you think that was surprising, stay with me, because this next part is why the whole story matters. Within a year of joining the band, Stevie Nicks had written Rhiannon and Landslide. The band's 1975 self-titled album went to #1 in America. In the span of 18 months, 2 struggling Californians who'd been living off her waitress tips had transformed a fading British blues band into the biggest act in the world. Then came Rumors. The album that remains one of the best-selling records in music history was recorded inside a windowless studio in Sausalito. Everyone in the band was falling apart. John and Christine McVie were divorcing. Mick Fleetwood had just discovered his wife was sleeping with his best friend. And Stevie and Lindsey, the couple who had survived poverty and rejection together, were unraveling completely. What they did was keep recording. Nicks wrote Dreams, the band's only #1 single on the Billboard Hot 100, about watching her own relationship die from the inside. She sat in a darkened room with headphones on and channeled the grief directly into the microphone. Buckingham recorded Go Your Own Way in the same studio. It alleged things about her behavior that she has said, to this day, were untrue and cruel. She had to perform it beside him for years. Every time those words would come on stage, I wanted to go over and kill him, she told Rolling Stone. He knew it, so he really pushed my buttons through that. Rumors spent 31 weeks at #1. The heartbreak was the product. The product sold 40 million copies. She never talked about this publicly. Until now. The career kept climbing through the late 70s and into the 80s. Stevie launched her solo career in 1981 with Belladonna, a #1 debut. She had become something rare, a woman with individual stardom and a permanent seat inside one of the world's biggest bands. That same year, her best friend in the world received a terminal diagnosis. Robin Anderson had been Stevie's closest confidant, not a bandmate or a business contact, her actual person, the one she called, the one who understood the separation between Stevie Nicks the performer and Stephanie Nicks the human being. Robin was diagnosed with leukemia in 1981, became pregnant, and died shortly after giving birth to a son named Matthew. The grief was total. Stevie later described herself during that period as completely deranged. 3 months after Robin died, she married Robin's widower, Kim Anderson. She said the only thing she was thinking about was the baby, Robin's son. She wanted to protect him. She wanted to keep a piece of Robin alive. The marriage did not last. Years later, Nicks paid for Matthew to attend college. His daughter, Robin's granddaughter, calls Stevie Grandma Stevie. She has called Robin's death the first catastrophic loss of her adult life. It wouldn't be the last. And that's when the decision was made, the one nobody around her saw coming. By the mid-1980s, Stevie Nicks was spending millions of dollars a year on cocaine. She has been direct about it. All of us were drug addicts, but I was the worst. The band ran on excess. Everyone did. That was the culture and the era, and she was at the center of it. In 1986, during a concert at Red Rocks in Colorado, a doctor told her that one more line would likely cause a brain hemorrhage. She checked into the Betty Ford Clinic that same year. She came out clean, grateful, ready. Then a psychiatrist, without apparent awareness of what he was handing someone already wired for addiction, prescribed her a tranquilizer called clonopin, ostensibly to prevent relapse. In order to keep you off cocaine, we should put you on the drug we're using a lot these days called Klonopin, she was told. And she agreed to it. What followed was 8 years she has described in language that hasn't softened with time. Klonopin was worse than the cocaine, she said. I lost those 8 years of my life. I didn't write. I had gained so much weight. It took away all my wonderful drama, my tempestuousness, my compassion, my empathy, all those things that drove me to my piano. She gained weight. She couldn't write. She existed, nothing more. In 1993, she stopped the prescription and entered a 47-day hospital detox. She has since described the withdrawal as feeling like somebody opened up a door and pushed me into hell. But the loss she returns to most, the one that sits beneath all the others, isn't the creativity or the career. It's simpler than that. God knows, maybe I would have met someone. Maybe I would have had a baby. She never did have children. She has spoken about that absence with a grief she's never quite been able to close. Most people who know this story stop here, but the real story starts right now. The years after her recovery from Klonopin brought clarity, and then more loss. Prince died in April 2016. Nicks has talked about their friendship with something close to reverence. He had come to her studio once to collaborate. The song he was working on felt too big for her, and she told him so. He went home and finished it himself. It became Purple Rain. She told him she was glad she stepped aside. She never saw him again after that. Tom Petty died in October 2017. Their collaboration on Stop Draggin' My Heart Around had given her a defining moment in her solo career. But more than the music, Petty was someone she genuinely leaned on. He had given her real-life advice on several occasions, the kind that cost him nothing and meant everything to her. His death left a specific hole. But Christine McVie was different. Christine McVie had been Stevie's person inside Fleetwood Mac. The two women had arrived in the band the same year, had toured the world together for 5 decades, had been through everything the band's history contained. Nicks has called her my best friend in the whole world since the first day of 1975. McVie passed away on November 30, 2022, following a sudden stroke. She was 79. I didn't even know she was ill until late Saturday night, Nicks wrote publicly in the days after. I wanted to be in London. I wanted to get to London, but we were told to wait. And the next day, she passed away. I didn't get to say goodbye. That one sentence, I didn't get to say goodbye, is the emotional center of everything Stevie Nicks has said about her life in the years since. Here's what the comments kept asking, and here's the answer they never got. Until now, Fleetwood Mac as a functioning band had already been fracturing for years before Christine died. In 2018, Nicks was central to the decision to remove Lindsey Buckingham from the band, a move that ended their decades-long working relationship and led to a legal settlement. It was not a clean break. Nothing between those two ever has been. Buckingham underwent emergency open-heart surgery in 2019. Nicks sent him a letter, but when asked whether they would ever share a stage again, her answer has not changed, probably never. When Christine McVie died, the question of a reunion became meaningless. Without Christine, no can do, Nicks has stated plainly. There is no chance of putting Fleetwood Mac back together in any way. Without her, it just couldn't work. What that means in practice is that the band which shaped 50 years of her life, the entity that gave her creative expression, community, conflict, love, heartbreak, global fame, is now permanently over. Not on hiatus, not a matter of scheduling, over. She has said publicly that she will keep Fleetwood Mac's music alive in her solo shows, performing songs she never did as a solo artist, including The Chain, because now there is no other way for those songs to be heard live. She has taken on the role of musical executor for a band that can no longer speak for itself. That is its own kind of grief. And if you think that was surprising, stay with me because this next part is why the whole story matters. In January 2025, the Los Angeles wildfires tore through the Pacific Palisades neighborhood, where Stevie Nicks has kept a home for decades. a house she has described as nearly a century old. She evacuated. Firefighters saved the house. She did not know that for weeks. She spent 92 days in a hotel, alone. Everyone else she knew had access to their homes to oversee repairs and remediation. She was just sitting in a room, waiting. At some point in those 92 days, something shifted. "I thought, you need to go back to work," she told an industry audience earlier this year, and I did. The album she has been building in the months since is called The Ghost Record. She has described it as memories of mine of fantastic men, not vague impressions, but direct accounts. Not airy-fairy, her words, the people, what happened, what it cost, what she felt. It will be her first studio album in over 14 years. She fractured her shoulder in August 2025 and was forced to postpone the opening dates of her North American tour. At 77, the physical demands of performing have become part of the story. Each tour announced as though everyone understands it may eventually be one of the last. She keeps going anyway. She has said she will keep touring and making music as long as she can. She has said she will keep performing Fleetwood Mac songs so they don't disappear. She has said the world isn't ready for her memoir. She's probably right. Stevie Nicks has spent over 50 years turning private devastation into music the whole world claimed as its own. And the tragedy underneath all of it is that the losses kept coming long after the songs were already written. The Ghost Record represents something new. Not a comeback, not a farewell, a settlement of accounts. Every relationship, every heartbreak, every year she lost, put down on tape while she still can. The woman who once wrote that she was afraid of changing is making that record now, at 77, after the fires and the fractures and the funerals. There is no Fleetwood Mac anymore. There is only her. So here's the question worth asking. Stevie Nicks gave up her personal life, her health, and by her own account the chance to become a mother, all in service of the music. After everything she's been through, do you think it was worth it? Or is that a trade no amount of fame ever justifies?